Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Hashim Kumar. This is a sanctioned stateless vessel which carries a long history of nefarious activity. UK Defence Secretary John Healey told Parliament after the US, with British support, seized the oil tanker Marinera in the North Atlantic on Wednesday. Russia calls the operation piracy and a violation of maritime law. Washington says it's lawful sanctions enforcement and part of a broader plan to control Venezuela's oil. Now, to discuss it all further, we're joined by Colonel Vaidotas Malinionis, retired, founder and managing director, National Defence Foundation. Colonel, welcome back and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for the privilege.
Pleasure as always, sir. So, this is getting to be quite a story, isn't it? This vessel is breaking sanctions that have been imposed on Venezuela. It has changed its flag. It's now flying under a Russian flag, and it's been given protection as a Russian vessel by Russian submarine. And on top of all of that, it's supposed to be empty. What is going on?
Yeah, first of all, the Russia, since the beginning of full-scale invasion, was burdened with the sanctions, yes. And of course, they were looking for the ways how to, avoid those sanctions, and that shadow fleet is actually one of the tools how to, sell the oil on the higher prices. So by maneuvering in between, Venezuela, North Korea, and Russia. And this case actually is probably the first time when this vessel was stopped by the force. And this is the first time when Russia is expressing deep concerns. That normally the West is doing those deep concerns all the time. But this time Russia is cannot do anything couldn't do, and they just withdraw their supportive fleet. You mentioned submarine, but I think it was also other vessels. And they just now using international law as a tool to persuade that it was an illegal action. And actually, this has already strategic implications. First of all, is international waters are no longer a safe haven for sanctions evasion. Yes, so Russia understands that it's already game-changing. Of course, economic warfare became physical. Enforcement moves from paper penalties to interdiction. So this is also hard power already. And of course, pressure on Russia, Iran, and Venezuela axis. Energy cooperation, of course, faces rising operational risks. And of course, this is a precedent. And possible that others also may follow this example. So, of course, it's not guaranteed that the other countries and other nations will be so brave, but it just demonstrates that under normal pressure, Russia is backing. So they don't have any tools to respond. And of course, it shows their weaknesses, and it shows that they are losing influence in the global ocean.
Yes, you raise a number of points there. Russian naval vessels have been protecting this ship ever since it raised the Russian flag. And normally that kind of saber rattling by Russia tends to scare other countries off. But it hasn't done so this time. Do you think that this is actually, other countries will see this and say, well, actually, Russia's a bit of a toothless tiger. They've been playing this game for a long time. They played it in Europe. And suddenly we see that they talk more than they can do. Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, I think it's a precedent, and it's actually the first time then since 2022 full-scale invasion. Then Russia's ship was taken by force, and Russia's response was total zero. Only big concerns. And plus, it's not only the vessel was taken, but also crew. The vessel's crew will go under the prosecution. So in the United States. So, and I think yes, it demonstrates the Russia's weakness. Although they are, posing themselves very, very brave and very resolved and resolute, but in this case they just backed and they couldn't do anything. So this is a precedent, and I think it's a good example also for other countries, to reinforce and to understand that Russia is playing games and bluffing. So and with enough force, they will back.
Right. Now, the other thing about it that's striking is that this vessel was empty, or supposedly empty. Why is Russia getting so exercised over an empty vessel? I mean, one could perhaps understand it more if it was full of Venezuelan oil on its way to Russia. One could understand that, Russia wouldn't want to lose that, but this wasn't. Do you think there's something going on underneath the surface here?
Well, I don't think it is very big difference if it was empty or not. It is if it is a tool, to avoid sanctions, and this is of course Russia's high interest, because oil is a main support. Selling of oil or oil production is main support of Russia's economy and of course of war. So, and if they are losing this ground, it will be very painful for them, for their economy, and for their capability to wage war. So that's the reason they are very sensitive about that. But even in this case, they couldn't do anything else besides big concerns.
Right. Now, the other example that we've had recently that's affected the Shadow Fleet is the ship that's going through the Baltic Sea and which has been detained by the Finnish authorities, and that's suspected of cutting underwater cables. Is the rest of the world, I mean Europe, the Baltics and so on, are they finally waking up to actually stopping this Shadow Fleet and finding some kind of legal or perhaps grey zone solutions to restrict cash flows to Russia?
Yes, I think this is also a good example how it should be dealt with those illegal shadow fleet, and those incidents. It marks a shift from. I hope that it marks a shift from deterrence by ambiguity, to deterrence by enforcement. So I think in this situation, I think enforcement now is very, very welcome, because otherwise we will not, we will not enforce proper, measures to mitigate that shadow fleet activities.
Yes, it certainly seems as though finally we're getting some kind of response. Colonel Malinionis, thank you so much as always for your analysis, and have a good evening, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. That brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.